Hey guys, Dirt here. Welcome to another episode of Formers Friday. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to make a note that we are doing this recording on a Surface 3. I've never tried to do a full video review on a Surface before, so we're going to test it out. In fact, all of it is here on the Surface, the video editing software, the recording software, using the built-in camera, all of that stuff. So it's part of another experiment outside the fact of needing to do a Formers Friday. But also, I'm here today because the Geek is unable to do the show at this time. He's got some medical stuff he's got to take care of. We wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can return before too long. But getting into the review here, we do have Infinitus and Sentinel Prime. You can see him right here in his bright orange glory. And we'll take a look at the back of the box here real quick. So you can just see on here, of course, the standard stuff that you see in all these Titan Returns heads. Hey, look, the heads are interchangeable. Great. We got Nightbeat, hard head still available. Galvatron, which the Geek spoke about on an episode about a month back, I guess. And then Power Master Optimus Prime, who I spoke about a couple months back when I was filling in for the Geek before. So take a look here at Sentinel Prime and his other forms here. We've got his robot mode, which looks pretty cool. We've got his space arc spaceship thing there that looks pretty awesome. And then we have this thing, this space train submarine battleship. I don't know what that thing is, but I guess we'll take a better look at it here once we get everything transformed. But let's go ahead and use the magic of video editing. We now have Sentinel Prime in his robot form out of the box. And for the most part, I like the look overall of his, robot mode. I like how, because he's, a Prime, he's got that kind of nod to Optimus Prime in the way he's put together for the most part. He's got that G1 kind of bulky style to him that I prefer. But you do have some of the same problems that you get nowadays when you buy Hasbro Transformers, and that's you get the big pockets of dead space, like you can see here from the feet, and areas back here where they cut the plastic out of the arm, which makes these kind of weird areas, and also some of the stuff where like the hand goes back, you've got a big hollow area that's there. But I mean, for the most part though, it's a solid and good looking figure. It poses pretty well. It's got the more modern articulation that we see in a lot of these characters, and it gives you the ability to play with it, move it around a lot of different ways. You can hear it's got that click in some of the joints to hold a good pose. So the head is kind of knackered by this thingy that comes up to make his neck guard. I don't know what you call it there, but I think for the most part, it looks like a pretty solid robot figure. And with enough articulation that, yes, even as an adult who will play with them and pretend that they're attacking and defending, which I don't always like to admit that I do, but, it's true. That's what happens. I think you do have enough free range of motion and enough different ways that you can pose him to keep it interesting, even when he's doing like the Michael Jackson thing where he's, leaning forward and not falling over. So overall, it's a good robot. I think it's a good look. The orange is bold and strong. It's not too garish like some of the G2 stuff, where they had the crazy purple and green camouflage or, whatever on them. It's just it's a good look. It's a bold look. And I like it. I do want to take a moment to say a little something about the instructions. As usual, for someone like me, a lot of times these instructions are kind of hard to follow, but they always used to come on a nice plastic-coated piece of paper. Felt like it would last a while. Nowadays, they just come on this like heavy paper. It's almost like the brown paper that they make the bags out of. It makes it a little harder to see because your colors aren't as bold on it. It just feels cheap. It feels like it's not going to last. If I fold this the wrong way a couple times, it feels like the paper is going to rip. It's just a really, really cheap the way they cheaped out on that on those instructions. But it's not a deal breaker on buying the toy. It's just something I think is worth pointing out. Now, the transformation to his space arc thing really isn't that bad. It was pretty easy. As you guys know, I'm pretty inept when it comes to transforming these things a lot of times. So as much as I love them, they usually give me a headache. And this one was pretty straightforward. In fact, one of the reasons why I always talk about how I love G1 so much is that the transformations are pretty simple. And this one follows right along with them. A couple things to point out, though, is that Infinitus does have a little, cockpit here where he can sit and fly along. But he can also come out, and the gun that Sentinel Prime carries doubles as a little spaceship here. So he can sit there almost like, the sidecar on a motorcycle. But then, of course, let me pop this off. He can sit down inside it, and it can work like its own separate thing. So he can just zoom along through space, woo, doing whatever he's going to do on his own inside of that, which I think is at least a cool option that they give to you. It might not be the most useful thing, but hey, I mean, if you were a kid and you had the option of, having something extra on there, having that whoops, and dropping it all over, that's another thing you do all the time as a kid. That really gives it some fun extra playtime stuff. Now, as far as this space arc thing goes, a couple things. It does have some issues trying to hold together. It does seem up here where the wings come down, these tank tread pieces, they're pushing against each other and causing some tension. So tapping them just right, everything kind of pops out of place. But it's got to be the way that they work, because the way everything tabs together, that's how it goes, but yet still there's some tension there. So I'm not sure why exactly that is. Also, one thing that's kind of disappointing is that these little gun turrets here don't move. I was hoping that they would, spin around and stuff, and they don't. They're just molded in as part of the arm, which is a little sad. I would have liked to have been able to play with those a little bit more. It helps when you're dealing with the big ship, in your mind. Again, with your imagination, being able to move those around. Now, I do give them credit, though. The chest pieces here on Sentinel Prime turn into these landing gear pads, whatever, and they've got this one up here in the feet. So at least it holds him steady while he's docked, so to speak. Then that helps with the overall look of displaying him. Displaying him this way is really cool, except again, because of all the pressure that's on there, it doesn't always want to hold together the way it should. Especially doesn't help if you drop it like that either. But holding it together, giving it a nice push, but still there's all that tension that's built up. And now, in fact, the way it relieved a lot of that tension here, we can see that these pads actually have popped up over where they're supposed to tab into place. If you see, we'll pop it up here. See, it's got the little tab that's supposed to go down into that little screw hole. But once you do, it starts pushing against the wing up here and causes that tension. But again, 99.9% is really cool. I can point out a couple small things that, they could have taken a nail file or something and fixed it a little bit better. But overall, it is still really cool. It's a good look. These wings move here, so you can kind of customize that a little bit depending on how you want it to look exactly. And then you've got all these added points here where other weapons or the weapons you have the ability to poke them there. If you've got other transformers, especially a lot of the combiners that have extra guns and they really have no place to keep them safe. I hate just setting them on the shelf next to them because I feel like that is just asking for them to get lost pretty quickly. So at least you've got some way on here. You've got lots of extra places that you can put attachments on here that can help keep some of those guns from getting lost. All right, now we have him here in his space train form, and this to me is, of course, the weakest of all the different modes. I guess it kind of works for what it's supposed to do, but I mean, honestly, that's just woo. It's you stretch them out super long and you call it a train. The only things that give it the train look are they have some train wheels here on these pieces, and the front end has this kind of funky looking, let's see if I can focus on it. There we go. Has this funky end, which is supposed to be your, train compartment, and you've got your grill here, your cow catcher on the front, I believe is what it was called back in the day, before my day as a cowboy. But the middle part here, the main part of the body, it's just covered up by the wing. I mean, the wing just folds over. And it's pretty obvious that that's a wing. And it's pretty obvious that the wing is just covering up a bunch of stuff that really doesn't fit. So, overall, I'm not a big fan of this look. I at least give them some credit here. Again, they have little wheels here that help it roll. So I give them bonus points for that fact. So it's not too bad. Again, Infinitus sits here in the little cockpit. You can also take off the gun and use that as a piece if you want to. You can even attach it, this way, have them sit in it again like the sidecar. But, overall, just not... To me, it's not a compelling look. It's not a compelling toy. It's not like, Astro Train looked like a train. He looked like a space shuttle. This just... I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's not riding on Roard and Steel, I can tell you that much. But all right, I'm going to turn him back into robot mode for the final thoughts on this. But there you go. There's his train. All right, so putting him back in robot mode, a couple things popped out at me. One, when they give you these instructions, whenever it's a triple changer type of thing, they will tell you how to convert it from the robot that you open the package and pull out of there into the space arc, and then it shows you how to turn from the space arc into the train. But of course, it doesn't show you how to turn from the train back into the robot. What you're expected to do is, of course, transform it back to one mode and then transform it back to the robot mode. And so instead, I just said, screw it, I'm going to see what I can do. And considering how inept and terrible I am at transforming, it actually was very easy. Again, going back to one of the things I loved about G1 is the transformations were so simple, especially in comparison to what we see with masterpieces or some of the movie ones that have come out in the last decade that have been pretty awful. This was pretty straightforward. So very easy for even an old idiot like me to transform it back. So I actually enjoy that. Another thing is, with all these headmasters, the head of the little robot is what actually attaches in there. And that's a pretty tough stick. Pulling it in, popping it out, it just really doesn't matter. I'm just always afraid it's going to break. And of course, that tiny little head is the only thing giving any sort of stability to this head. So these added little pieces here are actually really nice because they're keeping that head safe. They're keeping it from breaking off. So it does limit the mobility, but it's also keeping it from completely breaking apart, which I've actually seen on some of the other guys that have come out. Actually, my Power Master Optimus Prime actually broke his head, and that kind of sucks. Now, some of you who are looking a little more closely at this have probably noticed that there's something here right in the middle that looks like some sort of switch. Looks like it might be a button or something, and it really hasn't played a part in anything until now, transforming him back into the robot. Because when you take the head out, you push these pieces down in order to be able to pop him out and remove him. So you're left with those things hidden down in there. So how do you get them back? Well, you actually pull on this, and they pop right back into place. And that's actually pretty cool. Again, I'll give him some extra credit on that one because that was actually a pretty neat idea. It's a good way to be able to, again, keep the head safe, but when you actually want to transform it and get him out of the way, you have a nice spring-loaded way to bring him back. So it may not be an action feature per se. It's not something that's going to shoot missiles or do anything fun like that to give you some extra playtime out of it, but it does actually work in the overall health and well-being of your Transformer. So in order to keep your Transformer safe and keep it from breaking over the next, however many years you're going to be sitting here playing with this thing, that is actually a really smart move on their part. So again, I will give them credit where credit is due. I really enjoyed this Transformer. Especially love his Space Arc mode. The train doesn't do much for me, but between the robot mode and the Space Arc mode, I think I like this guy a lot. That's going to do it for me today. Don't forget to go to popculturenetwork.com. Check out all of our other stuff going on. We've got comic book reviews. We've got other podcasts. Masters of the Universe podcast. You can come check those out. Don't forget you can call our 24-hour voicemail line. It's area code 217-953-4025. You can find me on Twitter at PCN_dirt. You can also... find us on Facebook. We have an official Facebook group. If you want to go there, you can just find us all over the place doing all sorts of crazy different things. So just look for Pop Culture Network out there on your favorite social media platform, whatever it may be. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.
Dirt, call me.